It's you ahead of time. Good morning, Lethbridge. Miss Simone live here at Jess FM studio. You can connect and see this live at www.jessfm.ca. I was off again last Saturday, but I absolutely promise it is going to be every Saturday. This is a special edition, February 23rd. As some of the followers and viewers of Jess FM know, I did a little clip saying that I will be having Jen Lepko from the YWCA and come talk about the Amethyst Project, which all of you know that it's very dear to my heart that we have this project and to educate the public and around the world about resources to help people and victims of sexual assault and sexual violence. Just before I get started, I think I'd like to say there might be some material in the next hour that might trigger some emotions. There might be some victims. There's survivors out there. There's people that know other people that might be struggling or might not. There might be some sensitive material. So just a warning, if you do feel a certain way when we might be talking here, don't be scared to shut off your TV, step back, don't force yourself to engage into the information. If you do engage in the information and you'd like to talk to somebody after, make sure that you do have somebody to talk to, and if you feel like reaching out, that we definitely will have some numbers within the next hour here about resources where you can call and definitely talk to somebody, and definitely anonymous too. Thank you so much, Jen, for coming. It's such an honor. I've been waiting for this forever. I never thought years ago when I first met you that I would be sitting here interviewing you about the Amethyst Project. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. It's an important topic. It's an amazing program, and you're an amazing person, and so we're thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you so much. For people that don't know about the Amethyst Project, can you give us a little journey into how the Amethyst Project came about? How did YWCA come up with this concept?
So a number of years ago, the YWCA Lethbridge District partnered with the University of Lethbridge actually on a project through Status of Women Canada on engaging young people to prevent gender-based violence on post-secondary campuses. And so through that process and that project, part of what we did was sort of an environmental scan to see what resources were available locally, both on campus and off campus, in our community and our rural communities as well. And we really saw that there was a lack of services, a significant lack of services, and a lack of response to those victims or survivors of sexual violence. One of the biggest things that there was a lack of was that immediate crisis response. And we know that when crisis happens, that's when people need the support to initially get through that crisis. So we, from all the learning that we had on that project, we moved forward and designed a model that was unique. It was not the traditional sexual assault center type model. It was something that was extremely unique, very, very victim-centered. We had, based on what was being seen at the hospital at that time, there was approximately 20 disclosures of sexual violence at our hospital here in Lethbridge a year. And so we set it up with 2.5 staff that provided 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year support. Our very first year of Amethyst, and so we officially started January 2016, we had over 100 disclosures at the hospital. And so we knew that part of the reason there was not the disclosures is there's not the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Being a survivor of multiple assaults, one of the things that I knew through that whole time, from starting of being young to where I'm at, in 2016, that it was very lack of resources, and I feel like there wasn't that much hope, right? There was a small education, there's pamphlets, but pamphlets can only do so far. There needs to be a family kind of network of support, of understanding people, and it's evolved, I really think, in the resources, especially when it comes to sexual assault and violence centers and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. And, YWCA has been in this city for 70 years now, and we know how to do crisis response. That is what we are really good at. And it just made sense that we provide that support. And it looks different for every single individual. And I'll use victim and survivor interchangeably.
Yeah.
These are people that are victims of a crime.
Absolutely.
And so I will typically refer to victim, but people choose to define that differently for each individual,
Absolutely.
right? And that's the whole key, is to be able to support that person individually.
Yeah.
And we know sexual violence is about removal of control.
Yeah.
Someone else is violating this person. It's about taking the control away. And so the biggest piece of what we do as advocates is we're there, we
Empowerment
provide
back.
that, yes, we provide options and choice and support.
And it's a safety factor. Like, I think, to be honest, when you're assaulted, in my experience, everything moves so fast, and it's such an impact. The impact of, okay, whatever your incident was, it's like, boom, you're in the hospital doing tests. They start you on pills. You're at the station. You do an interview. You're somewhere else. You don't know what your closure, and that's within 12 hours, 7 hours, not even, right? And it's like damage, talk about it again, damage some more. Before, in those 12 hours, you're more damaged because you have to keep talking about your story all the time. And I think to have someone to come to you in a safe environment, that there's no judgments, there's no name calling and things like this, because I know that people can be really cruel. And, oh, well, she did it to herself, or she put herself in this position and stuff like this. And, people, that's stereotyping. That's judgment based upon that person's character, and it doesn't matter who you are. No one deserves to be assaulted.
Oh, absolutely. And it is never, ever the victim's fault, period. We live in a very victim-blaming world. Even when you take it out of, say, a sexual violence context. My son will run up the stairs and be running and fall and hurt himself. And what's my response? Well, if you weren't running. We do this. We do this regularly. So we really need to change our language, start understanding, because that first person that individual discloses to is going to set the tone for how they move forward and what their healing is going to look like for them. And so, even in terms of time, that's another thing that we've brought in through Amethyst, is the third option. So prior to Amethyst, when you disclosed to the hospital, you'd have two options: to be treated medically and released, or you could contact police and go through the criminal justice system, in which case you would have the sexual assault kit done. So what we've done is brought in a third option, where you can actually have a sexual assault kit completed, because there's only 72 hours in which the evidence can be collected. So you can have that collected, but you have up to a year to decide whether or not you want to pursue the criminal justice route. And that gives people the time. Making a decision in the midst of crisis is not usually the best.
Yeah, and no, it's not. And I'm so glad that you have that, because, I was a client of yours, in 2016. I would tell myself I wasn't going to do this.
No, but emotions are okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
The Amethyst Project was there for me in the first year you guys were open. And you guys, went above and beyond. And if I didn't know to go to the YWCA and be so much in part of them, since I've been 16, I've been a part of the YWCA. And to know that resource is there, and you come into my home, you understand you knew there was patterns to emotions, because I think once you're victimized and you have all of the outer elements too, like, that are going on, one of the biggest things was everything moves so fast, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have court dates, and you have these things, and you're trying to sort yourself out, and then when you're a parent and you just get victimized, and you have to function as a parent and try to be strong for your child, you don't have time to feel pressured about the court things, right? And was that there in 2016, the time
Yes.
One?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as Amethyst started, that was
Yeah.
a big piece of what Amethyst was about, was making sure that we had that third option available. An amazing partnership with the Lethbridge Police Service, as well as the hospital, the Chinook Regional Hospital, and the emergency, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
You know, they do everything that they can to support us, to support these victims, and it's been a great collaboration, and it's the impact, right? It's
Yeah.
about being able to provide the supports and slow things down a little bit, because it's a whirlwind, and you know, sexual violence doesn't just affect that individual. So you know, we serve through Amethyst, we serve everyone
Yeah.
who's been sexually assaulted, whether it's a child, whether it's a male,
A senior, and
everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, we're there for you. And you know, when a child comes in and there's a sexual assault, the family or the caregivers around that child, they're struggling to respond, and how feel all their emotions, the guilt.
Yeah,
those
there's
types of
very
things.
a tiptoe factor around it. I call it the pink elephant in the room, because especially when it comes to a child, being a victim of child molestation myself, that it's you grow up and there's that uncomfortability because people don't know how to handle that situation, especially when it comes to family. Like, how can you console someone, especially someone so young? How, like, and you feel guilty too, because what could I have done? And sometimes there's nothing you could have done.
Exactly.
But what can you do now? And you know, like with the Amethyst Project educates so much, and they teach the families how to deal with these situations and what are the processes and things. And it's so scary for a parent to find out information, a family to find out information like this.
Oh,
and I think
absolutely.
it's so important what you guys are doing. And you know, like, I follow you on your page, like, if you let the viewers know, you know, some of the websites that they can see about what Amethyst Project does and stuff like this?
Yeah, so on the YWCA Lethbridge website, there's information on Amethyst, and we're in the process of getting a new website, so watch for that. But all of the social media, you know, the Instagram and Facebook, we're on there. We've been doing a lot of work, especially in February, since February is the month of
It is.
Amethyst.
I'm wearing purple as in support.
So there's been a big push, and you know, we kicked it off celebrating the third birthday of Amethyst as of January, and so there's lots of all the social media. We're running a bit of a campaign. We'd really like people to share. It's a purple box, and so it's
I've
kind
been
of
sharing that too. I've been sharing that.
Again, bringing the awareness, letting people know that they're not alone. That, you know, we are here. Amethyst is here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not just at the hospital. You can call in to our crisis lines. You can walk into the YWCA and be supported.
Yeah, I think it'd be so cool if everybody put a purple T-shirt on and like took a picture in support of the Amethyst Project.
Absolutely.
I think everybody out there should get their purple shirt on, post a picture in support of the Amethyst Project. Everybody.
That would be brilliant. Well, yeah. And let
Yeah.
people know they're not alone.
Yeah.
Just like that the Me Too movement, right? It's let people know that they are not alone, that there are other people out there, and you know, it's such an individual crisis that person experiences, but there's others as well. Unfortunately, there's a number of others, and by knowing that there's other people out there and that there are the supports, that's going to make all the difference in the world. And maybe your post, you and your T-shirt, will make it somebody know that there is a support there. And you know, if you, even on the phone, if you're across the country and you want to call Amethyst, we're here for you. We have toll-free numbers. We have
And
everything.
just to let everybody know, like she said, because everybody thinks YWCA is just for women, the Amethyst Project and YWCA do have men projects and accept men in certain programs at the YWCA.
Oh, absolutely.
And people don't know that.
Yeah, so we are about empowering and making women's and children's lives better. But by supporting men, we also make women and children's lives better. So we
Absolutely.
need to support males too. And we've started boys programming and young men programming. So it's called Wise Guys. And we're working on a committee called Wise Guys as Allies. So getting men in our community to stand up and work for men as well as for women. And you know, this is a community issue. This is a societal issue. This isn't just a man or woman's issue.
It's
I was fortunate enough to be up in Edmonton with Terry Crews speaking. And talking about how do we engage men and boys in these conversations. We know it's, you know, statistics look approximately 1 in 3 women, 1 in 5 males are victims of sexual violence. So it's happening across the board. We need to support everyone. And it's about standing up and talking about it, not pushing it under the table where, you know, it's
an easy thing to push under the rug. You know, and it's interesting because, you know, society and social media, they really talk about, you know, the drug epidemic and, you know, these things. And it's like, does anybody know how many calls that the Lethbridge Police Services get for sexual assault and rapes in Lethbridge? You know what I mean? Do people have any idea how many calls social services gets for child molestation cases in Lethbridge in our own community? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why I have so much passion for this, not only being a victim and a client, but also too when I came to speak, you know, for you about the sexual violence and human trafficking. And I think that really set it off. And, you know, and I'm here, right? And, you know, like the event I'm doing, You're Not Alone, for the fundraiser for the Amethyst Project, I'm really excited to do that. I wanted to talk to you about exactly what resources does the Amethyst Project, like what do you do? Like what kind of supports are in the program?
So like I said, 24/7 support. It's whatever that individual needs.
Okay.
So we are at the hospital. We are on the phone. We will meet them wherever they need to be met. It's about empowering them, letting them know that it's not their fault. We are sorry that this has happened to you. And giving them back their control, that they can take ownership of themselves. And you know, it's as you would know, the healing process from an extreme victimization such as this, it's not just a straight arrow.
No. You know, do this, right? It's
absolutely.
a huge emotional roller coaster. And then, you know, like I waited 2 years for my case to even come to finalize. It just finalized last year. And the outcome is not always what you want it to be because there's so many other elements to things that can happen in people's lives, right? And, you know, like, I am going to give a shout out to Victim Services because Darcy James, I'm telling you, like, she's like this pillar, right? Victim Services is like, they stuck with me for 2 years. 2 years, you know, outreach, you know, Amethyst Project, like every day, you know, 2 years. I've never been without support going through everything. And it was such a long support and I could never have closure. And people need to realize that, you know what, some people don't end up out alive in a situation. And some people are too scared to come forward. And I know that there's people at home right now, you know, are scared and carrying these things, and it took so much for me to work on myself and so much to try to close things, right? And you can't do it alone. You can't, you know.
And we really want people to know, you know, the disclosures to the police about any sort of sexual violence is really low. Anywhere between 6 to 10% are that's who discloses. But people need to know that just because they're accessing a resource doesn't mean that they're going to be pushed into taking that route. It may not be okay for somebody. They may not be ready for that. They may not want to do that and go through that route because it is hard. And I recommend doing it with supports because
absolutely.
It is a roller coaster. But you know, talk to somebody anyway. Like I said, call the Amethyst. Our crisis workers are available all the time. At least talk to somebody because when you carry that, it continues to be broken.
Does, and you know, like it ends up into like drug addictions. It ends up into you know, suicide. it ends up into these things. And, you know, like for myself, you can't even sort things out. You have day flashes and night terrors and, you know, like insecurity issues. I suffer from PTSD, you know, I suffer from these things because I was traumatized. And, you know, like you really get introverted afterwards and you shut the world out because you're scared. Like, locked myself in my house for 14 days, you know, one time, right? You can't sort anything out, you know, and, I think for the longest time since I was victimized as a child till now, the definitions, right? What is the definitions between sexual violence? Like, can you explain that to some of you? Sexual violence, sexual, so like, how is it categorized? What is the difference?
Well,
exactly. In the end of the day, it's wrong, but isn't there a different, like, not category, but different.
When you look at the criminal code,
yes,
you know, there would be different levels. Absolutely. From our perspective at the YWCA, if someone feels that they have had their consent. Control, taken away, they've been violated in any way. You know, for one person, being grabbed and groped might be just as traumatic as another person with penetration. Or
triggering, right?
Absolutely. You don't know what is in people's pasts. You don't know what their coping mechanisms might be at the time or the circumstances. And so we don't, you know, in terms of the ambulance and why we say it's all wrong. It shouldn't happen to them, period.
Exactly.
So, you know, maybe you were grabbed, your chest was grabbed at a bar or something. That can have an impact on you, and we get that. And it shouldn't happen. Yeah,
exactly, and it shouldn't. And as far, I want to touch base on this because this is, out of a lot of cases, you know, that I read and that I've experienced, and people that I've come across to in my life. You know, I lived high risk lifestyles. You know, I was a dancer and I lived on the streets, and you know, all these different things, and you see it all the time, and it's sometimes forced, certain things, right? Especially, you know, dancing it's full of human trafficking. Do you know what I mean? And you're constantly being sexually violated all the time. You know, there was literally, like, you know, pimps sitting at the end of, and every day you're being assaulted because you're scared. You're scared to leave. You're in forcible situations, right? That's traumatizing for long term, you know, and then you just kind of accept it after a while, and these things, and in the end of the day, and it's just it's wrong, right? And sooner or later you don't know the differences, you know what I mean? You kind of are like, that's just how it goes, you know what I mean? But when you come out of that and you step out of those lifestyles and realize, like, it's not okay, right? Like, this stuff's not okay. Like, with bartending, a guy grabs your boot, that's not okay. You know what I mean? Like, just because you work in a strip club, bartending doesn't mean you could do this. Or, you know, just because of this doesn't give you the invitation to do these things. And it's, you know, consent, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a big thing, and we need to talk more about that. You know, from our young people all the way up. We need to talk about consent. We need to talk about people's boundaries and respecting people's personal spaces.
Absolutely.
And we need to change those attitudes. And, you know, that's a big piece of what we're seeing is the attitudes towards sexual assaults and sexual violence.
When it comes to sexual assault and sexual violence under the influence, what are the laws with that? Because I know that's really huge, and that was the point I was trying to make earlier. Sorry, about, you know, well, I was drunk and I was high, you know, and all of us were. But, you know, we were just hanging out with her in a room. You know what I mean? And using alcohol and drugs as an excuse. By law.
Well, in reality, if you're under the influence of any sort of substance, you are unable to legally consent. If you're underage, you're unable to legally consent. Plain and simple. If you don't have full consent from someone, officially, when you look at the black and white of the law, that would then be potentially a sexual assault. It's hard, right? It's a really hard situation, and this is why it's hard to see these cases that go through the police and go through the court systems, see them go through, because
And the defense picks you apart when you're
Absolutely.
sitting there. Pick you apart. Oh, well, she was wearing a short skirt, and she was, all over this guy, and she was, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what she looked like. You violate her, or she violated him, and yes, gentlemen, women do
Absolutely.
rape men and violate them.
Yes.
Seniors, like some of your guys' postings, like about seniors being violated in long-term facilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can happen to anyone. And it's not that
A
individual's
gender,
fault.
it's not a race, it's
no,
nothing. It
it's-
can happen to anybody.
It is. And we know it happens to everyone.
Mhm.
We know that majority of the perpetrators of violence are males. And so that's where we hear a lot of. But they're perpetrating on both males and females of all
Absolutely.
ages. And
Absolutely.
so it's happening everywhere.
Absolutely. Your local statistics, because I know you've been touching base, especially when we're doing the purple box share. You mentioned the local. What are the local statistics? Please tell our community, because I think people are so jaded and so blinded by this in our community that it doesn't happen, and it does.
Oh, it
And
absolutely does.
I really love the fact that you guys are bringing the local statistics, because we really need that. We could see, when I was trying to organize that support group for victims of human trafficking, I did research, right? And what better way? You need to know local research. You can get research around the world.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
how hard is it to find local research?
And it's hard to
Excuse me.
put these human lives as numbers, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of providing services, over the past 3 years, Amethyst has provided some sort of service to over 1,000 people in Lethbridge and area.
Yeah.
And that number continually grows as people learn more about the resource and as people start to see that there is that resource available. What's really hard is we know that this is happening way more than is being
Absolutely.
disclosed. It is happening so much more, and to varying degrees, right? Like we talk about, it's a
Yep,
continuum.
absolutely.
And so to really put a number on how many are out there that
can't.
have, you really can't.
Yeah.
And multiple times too,
And
right?
one of the things that I mentioned, because, I talk about you guys a lot. I do. I'm that silent, I'm not a silent fighter anymore. We all know this. Risqué Dialogue, when I was talking to Jess, I'm like, let's start bringing up some things that people don't want to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's start bringing, I'm just happy that I'm able to be here and be a part and see something so amazing being created within our community. Can you tell us the recent, I know you guys do recent numbers, how often do you collect information so you can educate the public on local incidences?
We don't focus a lot on how many times this has happened when we started.
It's generalized.
It is, and it ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
right? So there are certain times of the year where we tend to see a pattern where there's a lot more incidents occurring. Halloween is a really kind of a peak area, especially we know that typically those individuals at the highest risk are young women, their first year of post-secondary education, within the first couple of months.
Yeah.
And there's a number of factors as to why. And Halloween, with the costumes and the changes, and of course, then we
Partying.
have increased use of alcohol. Alcohol really being the number one date rape drug. Yes, there are date rape drugs, but the alcohol inhibits or takes away those inhibitions, and so you will put yourself into situations, perhaps, regardless, still not the victim's fault, ever.
No.
If you're in the middle of having sex with somebody and change your mind and say, I'm done, that you're done.
Yeah.
That is where they're taking away the consent. So, we really want to educate on the attitudes around sexual violence, the conversation, what is sexual violence, what does it mean, and really let people know the supports out there. We've also are working on a number of support groups for young people. We're working on education for perhaps bus drivers, taxi cab drivers, bar staff. We have our Safe Bar initiative about to kick off, looking at
That's
sexual
awesome.
harassment in the workplace. Again, this becomes a triggering situation. It can be it can be quite
Absolutely.
brutal in a workplace,
Yeah.
and so it's about that whole conversation. Not only how do I support someone else, but how can I intervene? That whole bystander engagement, like, it is such a big picture.
And you know, and I just wanted to let everybody know that it doesn't only affect the person that got victimized, it affects everybody around you that knows or that's close to you that you felt you could talk to, or you know, these things. And it's hard. It's hard to talk about it because you question if people are going to believe you, right? And you question how people are going to react or if they're going to treat you differently. And, you know, on so many occasions, like for me, you know, after my assault in 2016, I think there was maybe just a handful of people, you know, that I talked to, right? And because, you know, already people knowing that I danced and these things, I've always been judged in Lethbridge especially. I always had to struggle being bullied here. And it's such a small community, right? And always having the fear of sharing. And I always wanted to share to educate and to show, like, people survive and people are here. And, you know, like, it's a long process. Some take all your whole life to even deal with an assault.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're a child, like repressed memories, and these things happen. These things happen, and people are like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. You know, and I, you know, being a survivor of domestic violence as well, and, you know, when you're in a marriage or stuff and your spouse knows you got assaulted and you have to share that, you know, it's one of the hardest things I think I ever had to do is, you know, tell my ex-husband. He gets a call, right, from out east after my assault, and I needed to come back because, you know, I was in French country and I had no support and I needed support, right, and I knew where I could get support here in Lethbridge. And if I didn't utilize those programs at the YWCA and utilize the Amethyst Project, I don't think that I would have been as tried to be off the beaten track, you know what I mean? Because there's times where you just say, forget it, and that's it, and, you know, you don't want to talk about it. And then, you know, when you talk about it, and you see how someone reacts, it's like, what do you say? Do you know what I mean? And it's just as hard for a person to be there and hear the information, nevertheless share the information.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, a piece of advice I can give to anyone is, if anyone is sharing with them or disclosing to them any sort of sexual violence, believe them. I don't, you know, whether they say they were abducted by aliens, you know, whatever that looks like, just believe them. Assume what they're saying is the truth, because it is their truth at that time. And something has occurred. And it may not make sense. It may kind of be out there. Again, this is an extremely traumatic event, and this person's in crisis, and it may have happened a long time ago. It doesn't matter. Just believe them. Believe them. Be there. Listen to them. And support them. That's the biggest piece of advice. You know, tell them, call the YWCA, call YWCA Amethyst Project. You don't have to do any of the work. All you have to do is listen and believe them. That's it.
And I think we, as at the time when we're victims, we're insecure. We're totally lost. We're trying to function on where do we go from here with our lives, because every time you're assaulted or you're raped, someone takes something from you. You lose a piece of yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
you're being violated.
Yeah, and you know, you forget things, and your assault, and when you're writing your statement and stuff, and you're on video and all these things, it's such a rush that you're so traumatized where there's certain things that you forget.
Absolutely.
And then boom, you know, you're standing there and you have this flash of a moment, right? and then you have to write it down. You have to, like remember all these things, and it's so it was such a long process for me. It took a part of my life from me, and I just wanted it over. I wanted it over, and I wanted the court to be over, and like Darcy, I'd call her. I'm like, it's just I feel uncomfortable in my own life, and counseling is so important. Damage control is so important in the early stages, right? But when you're angry and I want people to realize, and this is why I said it's graphic, this is the real shit. You're in the hospital, you have social services there, you have the doctor there, they start you on HIV treatment, you're getting pap smears, police are coming in, taking a statement. You know what I mean? Like, you have 7 people in that room, and you're wondering, how is it that you're alive right now? And you have to sign papers, and then you're, like, I just, and then when I think for myself, the biggest thing, and this happens with victims, is that they don't have those connections aftermath, okay? So I was in a train station, dropped off by the Montreal police at the train station alone for 7 hours after my assault. 7 hours I was alone. I wasn't picked up at the station. I went home alone. My babysitter brought the kit. I had to pretend everything was okay. I never healed. Yeah. I never healed because I didn't have the resources right away.
Yeah, and that's the importance of that initial crisis response. And,
absolutely.
And that being said, there's a number of people who haven't disclosed and have a historical sexual assault. We had one woman that called in, and she was in her late 80s, and she called and spoke to one of our Amethyst advocates, and she just needed to share the childhood sexual assault that she had experienced. She had never told anyone ever in her entire life, and here she is, in her 80s, and she said to the advocates, she says, you know what? She says, I've passed this on now. I'm not carrying this anymore. Yeah. I should have done this a long time ago, but I didn't. I've done it now, and I feel really good. Yeah. So moving giving that burden so that you're not carrying. It's not something you need to keep bottled up. No. And the more you talk about it, the more you take it away from you. You move those emotions.
People fear what they don't know, and I think sharing is a fear, and coming from all of my stuff is my personal experience. What I speak of. Your people are scared to hear, and they don't want to talk about it. You need to talk about it, but you're scared to talk about it because you're scared to be judged, because you don't know how someone's react, especially when you feel abandoned. You go through those emotions after you feel abandonment, worthlessness. You don't feel like it's hard for you to develop relationships again.
Oh, absolutely, and that's right.
Trust.
Really, call the Amethyst, the YWCA Amethyst, wherever you are. And we can help connect you to someone locally. We can help connect you anywhere. Another unique piece about the Amethyst is the huge amount of anonymity. You're not seen walking into a building. It is, it's meeting you where you're at. The YWCA, we offer a number of programs and services and health and fitness and everything like that.
So many.
That you can walk in and nobody has a clue what you're walking in for. So come down and see us. Give us a call, because, just sharing your story, just knowing that you have the support, that we're there for you.
Even going by and talking for 5-10 minutes, or meeting anywhere, like she said, and talking. Even if you never wanted to talk to them again, they would come and talk to you for that 10 minutes. Or that 5 minutes, or however long you need it.
Exactly.
No one ever rushed me. I was like, they're like, oh, it's Amanda. Okay, we know we're going to be here for an hour. But you know what? I'm so glad and grateful for that. And when you go into your room, which I loved, but there, I feel like family, and this, like, hi ladies at the YWCA, I love you so much. And Christine, like, she was there for so long, and she knew me when I was younger, and going in there, and then you go into your room, and it's so relaxing and comforting, and it's quiet, and the people that work for the Amish Project, I call them all little angels. Honestly, like, I endear them, and they're just so soft spoken, and they're just great at what they do, and that's support and showing a safe place. Is there some information and some numbers and stuff if you were ever in a situation or somebody wanted to call?
Absolutely. So you can call, our crisis line is 403-320-1881, 403-320-1881, and that's our crisis line directly to YWCA. We also have a toll-free number. So if you're out of the area, it's 1-866-296-0447. Again, 1-866-296-0447. Call anytime. It's, again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, because we know that sexual violence doesn't happen Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
No, it doesn't. It's a 24-hour crisis and a 24-hour situation and around the world, you know, and you know, we all come from different cultures and stuff, right? And we all come from different upbringings and stuff, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, right? And at the end of the day, it's interesting, without education and stuff, and when people come in from other countries, they're educated, right?
Absolutely.
And realizing, wow, like, this is not right, and this is not appropriate, right? It's a culture shock, I think, for some people and things like this. And it's a scary situation. You know, it is scary when you go and try to ask for help, right? And saying I struggled. And I just think it's, what kind of projects and stuff with the Amethyst Project? Do you have, like, I know you have some fundraisers and stuff. What do you have coming up in regards to some events and stuff that's what you're seeing at this project?
Well, we're always running different events. So we're really going to start focusing, especially next year. There's going to be so many things happening for Amethyst for February. We will be having the bracelets that as soon as our new
Really
website's
excited.
up.
I've been waiting. I asked her one, and I was like, so when you make those bracelets?
Yeah, so we've been working on getting a really nice amethyst bracelet. We've been talking about it for a while, and we really would like to have something for, you know, not only the victims of sexual violence, but everyone, to remember that sexual violence happens. And so we're going to have some amethyst stones in the bracelet. And amethyst, the name amethyst,
Exactly.
you know, the stone itself is meant for healing and for strength and just moving. And so it's just, it's a really important thing. So
an amazing representation of the platform and concept of the Amethyst Project.
You know, and just to have something to remember that you're not alone. No, you're never alone. It was not your fault. This too, you will move past it. You know, you will. Probably need support, but it will get better, and the power's within you, and you're able to take back what's been lost. And you're a shining example of that. That it's someone has done this to you. It is not your fault. You are able to move on and be who you are meant to be, and it's within you, and you're valuable. You're so valuable.
Thank you.
And anyone out there, you know, you are valuable. You are worth the healing. You are worth the support.
And you can make it, right?
Oh.
And I'm just like living proof of that, right?
Exactly.
As much as, you know, you want to give up and you just kind of you're comfortable with settling, and you know, you go through that. It's like, you know, you're worthy of love, and you know, people are there to walk beside you and make sure they're there saying, yeah, you are loved and you are cared about and you're a wonderful person and these things. And you know, when you lose hope and then you start believing that again, and I think, you know, the Amethyst Project, the YWCA, are such a great reminder of hope, right? And belief and support and these things. And that's why I'm such a strong supporter, and you know this.
Yes.
And I'm really passionate about this, and that's why I decided, you know, to do the You're Not Alone fundraiser. And it's interesting, when I told Yvonne that, you know, you're not alone, so many times I felt alone, right? And when you go through the process that no one understands you and things like this, it's not that I didn't think that I was the only victim out there, but it was like you feel alone, you shut down, you try to cope and stuff. And, you know, this fundraiser is about celebration of life, you know, celebration of spreading some positive outlook and things like this, right? And I'm really, really excited that I can do this for you guys and to see the outcome come April 27th. I am going to talk about this just because. April 27th, I am organizing a benefit fundraiser for the Amethyst Project. And I'm going to be bringing down We Are Robots from Calgary, which I did check out last Sunday, and I absolutely love them. Everybody's going to have a great time. Tickets will be on sale. We have a great sponsorship lineup coming in, and it's going to be at Hudson's at 8 p.m. It is open up to the public, so tickets will be $20. You get a free drink. Plus, there's going to be a massive poutine bar, which I thought would be kind of cool for us to do.
Yes.
And I'm excited to see this outcome and an extra support. I think the Y is such a great place, and the Amethyst Project needs a little bit more baby in the community. If you're looking for a new nonprofit you would want to support, I'll keep telling you every Saturday if you'd like.
That would be great. So because YWCA Amethyst Project, actually, we do get some provincial funding, but we actually support it through support the program through the rest of the organization and the work that we do. But we also have to pay for the sexual assault kits. So when a sexual assault, third option sexual assault kit comes through, that's $650 for each individual. We pay for as a nonprofit, and so any support from the community that we can get is much appreciated.
Because that's like hardcore evidence. It's really scary too, I think, for the victim to get it done and things like this. But how important it is to make sure that there is that option for them to help them through the process with court and these things, right? Yeah. Because you never know the outcome of anything, and I think that's the scariest, to come forward and to stick with a case. I did for 2 and some years, and I was like, I'm not going down without a fight, because I was like, no, it's interesting to go through that. So I wanted to ask you, how can you find out about all of the events and everything that they're doing for the Amethyst Project?
So we really, Facebook, Instagram, the social media is probably the best place because it's going to be the most current. Our website too, as I said, will have things posted, but it's kind of that live time when we're working on social media. So YWCA Lethbridge.
Awesome.
And
so you said it's 24 hours, right?
Yes.
Okay, so someone can call and if they're feeling or something's happened, 2, 3. That's amazing. So definitely don't be scared to use the phone numbers that Jen has given out. Please, please, please do not do this on your own. You're not alone. You won't walk alone or sit alone or be alone ever through any process, whether it's happened 5 years ago, 5 minutes ago. There's people here for you, and you can call even if you're all the way down to Las Vegas. The Amethyst Project will take your phone call. I really appreciate you coming on here, and I think it's so important, and you're a beacon of hope for this community. And thank you so much to the YWCA and the Amethyst Project and everything. Is there any last thing you'd like to say to our viewers?
I want to say thank you to you. Again, getting the opportunity to share this amazing program that really does help people. And that's what it's about, is helping people. And, you are a role model.
Thanks.
You are a true definition of empowerment, and what you've done has been amazing.
Thank you. Stop it, you're going to make me cry again. Thank you so much.
But this is an amazing woman who has overcome, and the fact that you're giving back and you're so connected, and it is amazing. And thank you to all of our community who do already support the Amethyst Project. It really is meaningful, because
you do have a lot of supporters. Yeah.
And we're supporting people.
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line, is helping people when these types of things happen that are not okay. We need to get past it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.